The hall of the Galactic Federation Council fell silent as Ambassador Lorith of the Ethel rose to his full height, his luminescent skin pulsing with iridescent patterns that signaled both authority and contempt. His elongated fingers splayed across the ancient podium of carved stellarite, a material so rare that its mere possession was considered a mark of cosmic prestige. Once again, Lorith's voice reverberated through the chamber. The Terrans demonstrate their fundamental misunderstanding of galactic order. His 7 eyes, arranged in a perfect heptagon across his broad forehead, focused on the human delegation seated in the lowest tier of the assembly. Their petition to establish colonies in the veiled sectors is not merely presumptuous, it is sacrilege. From her position at the head of the Terran delegation, Ambassador Elena Reyes maintained a composed exterior despite the familiar sting of humiliation. Beside her, Dr. Miranda Chun, the Federation's leading xenolinguist, seemed absorbed in her data tablet, her fingers dancing across its surface as if Lorith's words were beneath her notice. On Elena's other side, military attaché Commander Jackson Vega's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly, the only outward sign of his contained fury. The veiled sectors, Lorith continued, his melodic voice dripping with condescension, were touched by the progenitors themselves. Their celestial footprint remains in the very fabric of those stars. Such sacred spaces are not for the claiming by. He paused, allowing his primary eyes to contract in what the assembled delegates recognized as the Ethel equivalent of a smirk. Savages. The word hung in the air, its impact rippling through the chamber. Several elder species representatives nodded in agreement, while others shifted uncomfortably, the term considered diplomatically crude even if privately shared. The Terrans' humanity had erupted onto the galactic stage barely 2 centuries ago, a mere eye blink in cosmic time. Their rapid technological advancement and aggressive expansion had earned them a reluctant seat at the Federation, but little respect from the elder races who measured their civilizations in millennia. Elena rose slowly, her movements deliberate and dignified. Protocol demanded a response to such a direct slight. The Terran Confederation thanks the esteemed Ambassador Lorith for his perspective. She began, her voice steady. We maintain that our petition falls well within the established parameters for colonial expansion as outlined in the Accords of Antares. The veiled sectors remain unclaimed by any Federation species, and our surveys indicate viable worlds for habitation without disruption to any sites of verified progenitor activity. Lorith's dermal patterns flashed in patterns of dismissal. Verified? By whom? Your primitive instruments? Your rudimentary understanding of progenitor artifacts barely qualifies you to recognize them, let alone assess their significance. As the debate continued, spiraling into the familiar pattern of veiled insults and procedural obstruction, Miranda caught Elena's eye. A quick, almost imperceptible nod passed between them. Commander Vega noticed the exchange and inclined his head slightly, acknowledgement of a shared secret, a plan in motion. The session concluded as it always did, with the Terran petition deferred for further consideration, a bureaucratic limbo that could last decades in Federation time. As the delegates dispersed, Lorith approached the Terran group, his towering form casting them in shadow. Ambassador Reyes, he said, his voice lowered for a semblance of privacy, though still clearly audible to nearby delegates. I understand your enthusiasm. Your species is young, hungry. But there are hierarchies in this galaxy that existed when your ancestors were still grunting in caves. Places that are not meant for your kind. Accept this reality, and perhaps in a few hundred years, the Council might consider your petition more favorably. Elena smiled dimly. Time reveals many things, Ambassador. The Terran Confederation is patient. Patience, Lorith replied, is perhaps the first sign of civilization. I'm pleased to see at least that quality emerging in your species. With a formal bow that somehow conveyed more insult than respect, he glided away. Once alone in their secured chamber within the Federation Embassy complex, The Terran delegation's professional facade cracked. Savages, Commander Vega spat the word, pacing the room with military precision. 200 years of peaceful cooperation, adherence to every ridiculous regulation, and still savages. What did you expect, Commander? Miranda asked without looking up from her data analysis. The Ethel have been the dominant voice in Federation politics for 30,000 years. They're not about to welcome competition from primitives like us. Elena removed her formal diplomatic collar, placing it carefully on its stand. It doesn't matter what they call us. What matters is Project Rosetta. Miranda, your transmission this morning was encrypted to Federation standard. What's your progress? Miranda's face transformed, academic excitement replacing diplomatic fatigue. We've had the breakthrough we've been waiting for. She activated the room's holographic display, revealing a complex matrix of symbols, sounds, and mathematical equations. The artifact recovered from Proxima Centauri B was the key. Its computational crystal contains linguistic patterns that match fragments recovered from 17 other progenitor sites. The display shifted, showing a three-dimensional model of what appear to be sound waves twisted into impossible shapes. This isn't just a language in the conventional sense. It's something else, a form of communication that exists partially outside normal space-time. The progenitors didn't just speak, they rewrote reality with their words. Commander Vega stopped pacing. And you can understand this? Not entirely, Miranda admitted. But we've identified structural similarities with proto-languages from Earth's deepest history. Sumerian cuneiform, early Sanskrit, even elements that resemble the click languages of the Khoisan. There's a resonance pattern that suggests. Suggests what? Elena prompted when Miranda hesitated. That the progenitors may have visited Earth. Not just visited, they may have influenced our linguistic development, guided it. Elena and Vega exchanged glances. The implications were staggering. But here's the truly remarkable discovery, Miranda continued, her voice dropping as if the walls themselves might be listening. The neurological patterns required to produce these sounds, they're uniquely compatible with human vocal cords and brain structure. More compatible than with any other Federation species we've analyzed. You're saying we're, what? Designed to speak their language? Vega asked incredulously. Not exactly designed, Miranda clarified, but either through deliberate intervention or some evolutionary coincidence. Humans possess the precise neurological and physiological characteristics needed to articulate progenitor phonemes with the correct resonance patterns. Elena sank into a chair. So, when Lorith calls us savages, he has no idea that we might be the only species in the known galaxy capable of speaking the language of the gods that the Federation reveres, Miranda finished. Can we prove this? Vega asked, military practicality asserting itself. Miranda nodded slowly. That's what Project Rosetta's final phase is about. We've been training a team at the Luna facility. One individual has shown particular aptitude. Elias Lena Indrovid. I've read his file. Former linguistics professor, synesthete, perfect pitch, eidetic memory. The ideal candidate, Miranda confirmed. But to prove our theory conclusively, we need access to an actual progenitor interface. A complete one, not fragments. And those are exclusively located in the restricted zones under Elder Race protection. Like the Temple of Ascension in the Veiled Sectors, Vega said grimly. Elena leaned forward, which is precisely why we've been pushing our colonial petition so aggressively. We need a legitimate presence in that sector. A presence we're not going to get through proper channels, Vega observed. A heavy silence fell over the room. What they were considering amounted to sacrilege in the eyes of the Federation, and potentially treason. How ready is right? Elena finally asked. He's achieved approximately 78% accurate pronunciation of the core phonemes, Miranda replied. The physical toll is significant, hemorrhaging in the throat, neurological strain, migraines. But he's progressing faster than we anticipated. Elena stood, her decision made. Commander, prepare a covert insertion team. Minimal personnel, maximum d'uniability. Miranda, accelerate Wright's training program. I want him ready in 3 months. And if the Ethel discover what we're planning? Vega asked. Elena's expression hardened. Then we'll have confirmed exactly what place humanity truly holds in this galaxy, and what we need to do about it. 10,000 light years from the Federation capital, in a classified facility buried deep beneath the lunar surface, Elias Wright lay in a recovery pod, his throat raw and swollen, blood vessels burst in both eyes. On the medical monitor beside him, his brain scan showed patterns of activity never before recorded in a human subject. Again, he rasped to the attending physician. I'm ready to try again. Elias Wright had once been content with his life as a professor of comparative linguistics at Oxford University. His synesthesia, the neurological condition that caused him to perceive sounds as colors and shapes, had always given him unique insights into language patterns. When the Terran Confederation's Xenolinguistic Division had recruited him 5 years ago, he'd been told his skills would help improve diplomatic communications with alien species. That had been partially true. What they hadn't mentioned was Project Rosetta. Now, as he stood in the center of the lunar facility's pronunciation chamber, surrounded by advanced acoustic equipment and neural monitors, he understood why. What he was attempting should have been impossible. The next sequence involves what we're calling a temporal phoneme, Dr. Yasmin Rahman explained, adjusting the holographic display. The facility's lead xenophonologist had been working with Elias since day one. It appears to exist in multiple states simultaneously. Your brain will need to conceptualize past, present, and future iterations of the sound at once. Elias nodded, throat still tender from yesterday's session. Show me the waveform. The hologram shifted, displaying an impossible sound, a vibration that seemed to echo before it began and continue after it ended. To Elias' synesthetic perception, it manifested as a spiral of deep purple that simultaneously contracted and expanded. That's not physically possible, he muttered. Not in conventional physics, Dr. Rahman agreed. But we believe the progenitors perceived reality differently. Their language reflects this. Elias closed his eyes, visualizing the sound, feeling its shape in his mind. When he opened them again, he nodded. I'm ready. Taking a deep breath, he attempted to produce the sound. What emerged was a haunting vibration that seemed to split and recombine, existing in paradoxical states. The monitoring equipment fluctuated wildly, and several researchers removed their headsets in discomfort. On the observation deck, Miranda Chan watched intently as the waveform analysis of Elias' vocalization overlaid with their progenitor's sample. The match wasn't perfect, 87% correlation, but it was closer than any previous attempt. He's getting it, she murmured to Ambassador Reyes, who had arrived that morning for a progress update. Below, Elias suddenly collapsed to his knees, blood trickling from his nose. Medical staff rushed forward, but he waved them off, struggling back to his feet. Again, he insisted, wiping the blood away with the back of his hand. I can feel it. The shape is almost right. Elena turned to Miranda. This is destroying him. It's transforming him, Miranda corrected. His neural pathways are reconfiguring. It's painful, yes, but necessary. Think of it as evolutionary growing pains. Elena watched as Elias tried again, producing a sound that seemed to bend the air itself. This time, the waveform analysis showed a 91% match. We're running out of time, she said quietly. The Ethel are beginning to suspect something. They've increased surveillance on our deep space research vessels. Commander Vega believes they may have infiltrated one of our communication networks. Miranda looked alarmed. Have they detected the Luna facility? No, but they're asking questions about unusual energy signatures in human territories. It's only a matter of time. Below them, Elias had begun another attempt, this time producing a sequence of sounds that caused several instruments to short out. The correlation rate flashed on the remaining screens, 94%. We need to move now, Elena decided. He's ready enough. The risks are enormous, I know, Elena interrupted, but the potential reward is greater. Vega has secured a scout vessel with experimental stealth technology. We can reach the Temple of Ascension in the veiled sectors within 2 weeks. Miranda stared at the ambassador. You're going personally? Elena nodded grimly. This mission either elevates humanity's position in the galaxy forever or dooms us to eternal subjugation. Either way, I won't send others to bear that responsibility alone. In the chamber below, Elias Wright produced a sound that shouldn't have been possible with human vocal anatomy. As it resonated through the facility, lights flickered, and for a brief moment, those present would later swear that solid objects seemed to waver, as if reality itself was responding. The correlation meter flashed, 98.2%. Besides, Elena added softly, I think I'd like to see Ambassador Lorith's face when he realizes what savages are truly capable of. The veiled sectors glimmered with unusual stellar formations, binary systems with impossible orbital stability, pulsars that beat in perfect mathematical sequences, and vast regions of space where the normal laws of physics seemed more suggestion than requirement. For thousands of years, the elder races had declared these sectors sacred, permitting only ceremonial visits to specific locations. The most revered of these was the Temple of Ascension, a massive structure orbiting a perfectly spherical black hole. The temple itself defied conventional architecture, its crystalline spires and impossible geometries visible from millions of kilometers away. The Terran scout vessel Galileo approached under complete stealth, its experimental quantum displacement drive rendering it effectively invisible to standard detection systems. On the bridge, Commander Vega directed the small crew with tense precision. Ethel's ceremonial vessel at coordinates 227 by 384, reported the sensor officer. Standard patrol pattern. Their sensors show no indication they've detected us. Elena nodded, trying to project more confidence than she felt. Beside her, Miranda was engrossed in final data analysis, while Elias sat in silent meditation, preparing himself for what was to come. The journey had taken a toll on all of them, but Elias most visibly, his once robust frame now gaunt, dark circles under his eyes, but a strange intensity in his gaze that hadn't been there before. We'll dock at the tertiary maintenance portal, Vega announced. According to our intelligence, it hasn't been used in over 5 centuries. The temple's automated systems may not even register our presence. Elena turned to Miranda. What do we know about the temple's interior? Miranda activated a holographic display. Very little, unfortunately. No non-elder race has ever been permitted beyond the outer sanctum. But based on analysis of similar progenitor structures, we believe the central interface chamber will be located here. She indicated a pulsing point deep within the holographic structure. Energy readings suggest it's still powered after all this time, but dormant. And what exactly am I supposed to do when we get there? Elias asked, his voice rough from minimal use during their journey. Speak, Miranda said simply. The phoneme sequences we've prepared should activate the interface, if our theories are correct. After that, we'll have to improvise. Elias gave a short, humorless laugh. Wonderful. We're risking galactic incident on if and improvise. Would you rather go back to teaching freshmen about glottal stops? Vega asked dryly. Before Elias could respond, the ship shuddered slightly as it made contact with the temple's exterior. Docking successful, reported the pilot. No alarms detected. Environmental analysis shows breathable atmosphere inside, standard gravity. Vega rose from his command chair. Insertion team, prepare for departure. Ambassador, are you certain you want to join ground team? We can maintain communication from here. Elena was already checking her environmental suit. I've spent my career watching the elder races condescend to humanity, Commander. I'm not missing this moment. The insertion team, Elena, Miranda, Elias, Commander Vega, and 2 security specialists, entered the temple through a maintenance airlock that seemed to recognize no intrusion. The interior was both familiar and alien. Corridors lined with material that resembled marble but emitted its own soft luminescence. Ceilings that soared to impossible heights given the temple's external dimensions, and walls inscribed with the flowing script of the progenitors. Miranda moved reverently along one wall, her scanner capturing every symbol. "It's incredible," she whispered. "Some of these patterns we've never seen before." There, singing to each other across millennia. "Stay focused," Vega reminded her. "We have limited time before the Ethel ceremonial patrol circles back to this sector." They moved deeper into the temple, following Miranda's directions based on energy readings. Occasionally, they passed massive chambers containing enigmatic structures, crystalline formations suspended in midair, pools of liquid that flowed upward, instruments of unknown purpose arranged in geometric patterns. "This place defies everything we know about physics," one of the security specialists muttered. "How is any of this still functioning after millions of years?" "The progenitors didn't just manipulate matter and energy," Miranda explained as they continued walking. "From what we've decoded, they could manipulate the underlying laws that govern both. Their technology doesn't wear out because they altered time's effect on entropy within these structures." After what seemed like hours of navigation through the labyrinthine structure, Miranda's scanner beeped urgently. "We're close. The energy signature is just ahead." They entered a vast spherical chamber at what appeared to be the temple's heart. In its center floated a crystalline structure resembling a geometric orchid, its translucent petals slowly rotating around a core of brilliant blue-white light. The walls were covered entirely in progenitor script, forming spiraling patterns that seemed to flow and shift when viewed peripherally. "The primary interface," Miranda breathed. "It's even more beautiful than I imagined." Vega checked his tactical display. "We have approximately 40 minutes before the Ethel Patrol comes within sensor range of our ship. Whatever we're doing, it needs to happen now." Elias approached the crystalline structure, his expression a mixture of awe and apprehension. "The sequence you've prepared. Start with the foundational phonemes," Miranda instructed, "then progress to the activation sequence we practiced. The interface should respond to the correct vocal patterns." Elena positioned herself nearby, unwilling to miss any detail of this historic moment. Commander Vega and the security specialists spread out, watching for any sign of temple defenses or alarm systems activating. Elias closed his eyes, centering himself. When he opened them again, there was a strange clarity in his gaze. He began to speak. The sounds that emerged from his throat were unlike anything human vocal cords should have been able to produce. Multi-tonal vibrations that seemed to exist in several frequencies simultaneously, clicks and hums that resonated with the chamber's architecture, and undulating patterns that made the air itself seem to shiver. At first, nothing happened. Then, almost imperceptibly, the crystalline interface began to pulse in rhythm with Elias' speech. Its rotation slowed, then stopped, as if listening. "It's working," Miranda whispered, her scanner capturing every moment. "The energy readings are changing. The system is responding." Encouraged, Elias continued, moving to the more complex sequences they had decoded. His voice grew stronger, more confident, as if the act of speaking was becoming easier rather than more difficult. Blood began to trickle from his nose again, but he paid it no notice, fully immersed in the language. The crystalline structure suddenly flared with brilliant light. Its petals began to realign, forming new geometric configurations that seemed impossible in three-dimensional space. The script on the walls of the chamber came alive, glowing with the same blue-white energy at the interface's core. "Something's happening," one of the security specialists called out, pointing to the floor. Beneath their feet, lines of light were spreading outward from the central platform, following patterns in the floor that had been invisible before. "The temple is waking up," Miranda said, her voice filled with wonder and scientific excitement. "It's not just this chamber. The entire structure is reactivating." As Elias continued to speak, his voice now resonating perfectly with the chamber's acoustics, the interface blossomed open like a flower greeting the sun. From its center, a column of light shot upward, spreading into a holographic display of staggering complexity. Star maps, mathematical equations, and flowing script that shifted and changed as they watched. "Can you understand any of it?" Elena asked Miranda, who was frantically trying to capture and analyze the data stream. Fragments, Miranda replied, her eyes wide. It's a history. The progenitors' history. Their journey across the galaxy, the worlds they seeded with life. Her voice faltered. Earth is there. They did visit us. Vega's tactical alert suddenly chimed. Ambassador, we have a problem. The temple's reactivation is generating an energy signature visible across half the sector. The Ethel Patrol has changed course. They're heading directly for us, and they're calling for reinforcements. Elena barely heard him, transfixed by the unfolding miracle before them. Elias had stopped speaking the prepared sequences and was now conversing with the interface in what appeared to be spontaneous progenitor language. The holographic display responded to his words, shifting to show new information. He's controlling it, Miranda said in astonishment. He's actually communicating with the system interactively. Elias turned to them, his eyes glowing with the same blue-white light as the interface. When he spoke, his voice had an otherworldly quality, as if multiple voices were layered beneath his own. The progenitors called themselves the Shapers, he said. They didn't create life in this galaxy. They guided its evolution. And humanity was their final project, their most ambitious attempt to create inheritors who could continue their work. Their work? Elena repeated, struggling to comprehend. Language as creation, Elias explained, turning back to the interface. The ability to reshape reality through precise communication with the underlying fabric of existence. They seeded this ability in early humans, encoded it in our DNA, our neural pathways. But they departed before our development was complete. Some great crisis called them elsewhere. Commander Vega approached urgently. Ambassador, we need to leave now. The Ethel will be here in minutes, and they're broadcasting accusations of sacrilege across all Federation channels. Elena ignored him, addressing Elias instead. Can you download this information? Take it with us. Elias shook his head. There's too much, billions of years of knowledge. But he turned back to the interface and spoke a complex sequence. The crystalline structure reconfigured once more, and a small fragment detached itself, floating toward Elias. He reached out and took it. In his hand, it resembled a shard of translucent crystal. A key, he explained. Access to portions of their knowledge network, and proof of our connection to them. A distant sound of alarm echoed through the temple corridors. They're here, Vega stated grimly, drawing his sidearm. The Ethel ceremonial guard. Ambassador, we need to move now. Elena nodded reluctantly. Miranda, Elias, we have what we came for. Let's go. As they turned to leave, Elias hesitated, looking back at the still active interface. There's one more thing I need to do, he said. Before anyone could stop him, he stepped back to the interface and spoke a final sequence of sounds. The holographic display suddenly collapsed, then expanded outward in a pulse of energy that spread through the chamber and beyond. What did you do? Miranda asked, wide-eyed. Broadcast, Elias said simply. Every progenitor site in the galaxy just received the same awakening signal. And every Federation communications system just received proof of humanity's connection to the Shapers. Elena stared at him in shock. You've just changed the course of galactic history in a single moment. A sad smile crossed Elias' face. Isn't that what we came here to do? The urgent sound of approaching guards broke the moment. Without further discussion, they fled toward their extraction point, the temple now fully awakened around them. Systems activating that had been dormant for millions of years. As they ran, Miranda glanced at her scanner. The temple's defenses are activating, but they're not targeting us. They're creating a corridor for our escape. The temple recognizes us as kin to its creators, Elias explained between labored breaths. It's protecting us. They rounded a corner and came face to face with an Ethel ceremonial guard unit. The tall, elegant aliens froze in shock at the sight of humans deep within the sacred temple. Their leader, resplendent in ceremonial armor, raised his energy staff. "Defilers," he cried in the Common Federation tongue. "Savages, how dare you trespass in this holy place?" Before Vega could raise his weapon, the temple itself responded. The floor beneath the Ethel guard shifted, becoming temporarily insubstantial. With cries of alarm, they sank waist-deep into the suddenly viscous material before it solidified again, trapping them. "The temple has chosen its allies," Elias said quietly. They continued past the trap guards, making their way back to the maintenance airlock where they had entered. Throughout the temple, ancient systems were coming online, lights brightening, previously invisible doorways appearing, and strange harmonic tones filling the air. When they finally reached the Galileo and disengaged from the temple, the structure behind them was fully illuminated, pulsing with power that hadn't been seen in the galaxy for countless millennia. Setting course for Terran space, maximum speed, the pilot announced as they strapped in. On the communications array, urgent messages were flooding in from across the Federation. Reports of other progenitor sites awakening simultaneously, demands for explanation from the elder races, and confused inquiries from younger species. "What happens now?" Elena asked quietly as the Galileo accelerated away from the temple. Elias looked down at the crystal shard in his hand, now pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. Now he faced the consequences of speaking the language of gods. The Federation Council chamber was in chaos. Representatives from 200 species shouted over one another, demanding explanations, making accusations, or calling for emergency measures. The Grand Hall, designed for civilized debate under strict protocols, had devolved into something resembling a terrestrial marketplace. At the center of the storm stood Ambassador Lorith of the Ethel, his normally iridescent skin pale with fury. "Order," he demanded, his amplified voice cutting through the din. "The council will come to order." Gradually, the pandemonium subsided, though the tension remained palpable. Lorith's 7 eyes surveyed the assembly, finally settling on the Terran delegation. "Ambassador Reyes," he said, his voice tightly controlled, "would you care to explain how your species managed to desecrate the most sacred site in the known galaxy and activate progenitor technology that has remained dormant for millions of years?" Elena rose calmly, her diplomatic training serving her well despite the gravity of the moment. Behind her sat Miranda, data tablet in hand, and Elias, still looking drained but with a newfound confidence in his bearing. "Esteemed delegates of the Federation," Elena began, "I reject the characterization of our actions as desecration. What occurred at the Temple of Ascension was not violation but recognition, the reuniting of inheritor with inheritance." Murmurs swept through the chamber. "You speak in riddles, Ambassador," Lorith said dismissively. "The facts are clear. Your species illegally entered restricted space, trespassed in a sacred progenitor site, and somehow activated systems that the combined scientific expertise of the elder races has failed to understand for millennia. Perhaps," Elena suggested, "that is because you were never meant to." The chamber fell silent. The progenitors, or, as they called themselves, the Shapers, did not leave their legacy to the galaxy at random, Elena continued. They chose their inheritors with purpose. The data recovered from the Temple of Ascension confirms what my scientists have long suspected. Humanity's unique linguistic capabilities are no evolutionary accident. She nodded to Elias, who stepped forward. With clear reluctance, Lorith yielded the podium. "Delegates of the Federation," Elias began, his voice carrying a new resonance that seemed to fill the chamber effortlessly. "For centuries, you have revered the progenitors while fundamentally misunderstanding their nature and purpose. They were not gods to be worshipped from afar, but scientists and explorers who seeded the galaxy with life and sought to nurture species that could continue their work." He held up the crystal shard recovered from the temple, which pulsed with inner light as he spoke. "This contains but a fraction of their knowledge, freely given to those they designated as their final project, humanity." Outraged protests erupted from several elder race delegations. A Voral representative, their tentacled form quivering with indignation, shouted, "Preposterous! The Voral Collective has safeguarded progenitor sites for 50,000 years. We are their chosen custodians. Custodians, yes, Elias acknowledged, but not inheritors. There is a difference between those chosen to protect and those chosen to continue. He spoke a brief phrase in the progenitor language, a simple greeting according to the translation displayed on the chamber screens. The crystal in his hand flared brilliantly, and throughout the chamber, various devices carried by elder race representatives suddenly activated, projecting similar holograms of progenitor script. The proof is before you, Elias continued as delegates stared in shock at their suddenly active artifacts. The Shapers encoded recognition of their chosen inheritors into every piece of their technology. What you have carried as ceremonial relics for millennia are tools waiting for the right voice to command them. Ambassador Lorith stepped forward, his composure cracking. This is impossible. The sacred language cannot be spoken by mortal beings. It is divine, beyond comprehension. A convenient mythology, Miranda interjected, perpetuated to maintain your privileged position as interpreters of the progenitor's will. But the truth is simpler and more profound. The Shaper's language isn't divine, it's computational. Each phoneme is a command that interfaces directly with the fabric of reality as they engineered it. Elena reclaimed the podium. The Federation stands at a crossroads. For too long, the elder races have claimed sole authority over progenitor knowledge and sites. That era is ending. The Terran Confederation does not seek dominance or exclusive access, but we will no longer accept exclusion. The Shaper's legacy belongs to all sentient beings, not just those who arrived first. A thoughtful silence fell over the chamber as delegates processed this fundamental shift in their understanding of galactic history and politics. Then, surprisingly, a representative of the Mirdani, one of the youngest Federation species besides humanity, stood. If what the humans claim is true, the Mirdani delegate said, their translucent wings catching the light, then perhaps it is time for the Federation to reconsider its hierarchical structure. Perhaps knowledge should flow not from eldest to youngest, but from all to all. Several other representatives of younger species voiced agreement, while the elder races delegations conferred urgently among themselves. Ambassador Lorith finally rose again, his demeanor now tightly controlled. The Ethel Ascendancy requests time to verify these extraordinary claims. Until such verification is complete, we propose that all progenitor sites remain under current protocols. The sites have already awakened, Elias pointed out. They recognize humanity's voice. Current protocols are, by definition, obsolete. Before Lorith could respond, the chamber's lighting suddenly shifted. Above the central podium, a holographic projection appeared, identical to the one they had seen in the Temple of Ascension. A star map of the galaxy, with hundreds of points illuminated to indicate progenitor sites, all now active. This is unprecedented, gasped a Voral representative. A direct communication from progenitor systems. As the delegates watched in awe, the star map zoomed in on a specific region, Earth and its neighboring systems. Lines of progenitor script flowed across the projection, which Miranda quickly translated. The cycle continues. The children rise. The Shapers return through their voice. Elias stepped forward once more. We stand at the dawn of a new age, he said, his voice carrying that strange multi-tonal quality. Humanity does not come to conquer or control, but to unlock what has been waiting. The Shapers left their knowledge not as a treasure to be hoarded, but as tools to be used for the benefit of all life. He gestured to the holographic display. This is their true legacy, not temples and relics, but a vision of collaboration across species, across time itself. They shaped us, yes, but they meant for us to shape the future together. The chamber fell silent again, the magnitude of the moment sinking in. Centuries of established hierarchy and protocol were crumbling before their eyes. Finally, a representative of the Zardal, one of the most ancient races, slowly rose. Their crystalline form glimmered as they spoke in the formal tones of high ceremony. "For 20,000 years," the Zardal elder said, "my species has safeguarded the cache of enlightenment, believing ourselves chosen for this sacred duty. Today, we learn we were merely caretakers. This is a bitter revelation, but truth must prevail over pride." The elder turned to face the Terran delegation directly. "If the humans are indeed the inheritors, then the Zardal will recognize them as such, provided this inheritance is shared for the benefit of all, as you claim was the Shaper's intent." Other elder race representatives gradually followed suit, some grudgingly, others with philosophical acceptance. Only Lorith and the Ethel delegation remained rigid in their opposition. "This is folly," Lorith declared. "The humans manipulate and deceive. They are too young, too impulsive to be trusted with such power. The Ethel will not recognize this claim without further proof and guarantees." Eliash met Lorach multifaced steadily. "Ambassador, with respect, the proof surrounds us. As for guarantees, we offer this. Humanity seeks partnership, not dominance. We invite Ethel scholars to join our research teams as we explore the Shaper's legacy. Knowledge shared is knowledge multiplied." Lorith's skin patterns shifted in patterns of deep skepticism, but he made no further objection. The political reality was rapidly changing around him, and even the Ethel could not stand alone against the tide. As the council session continued, with proposals for new protocols and joint research initiatives being raised from all quarters, Elena, Miranda, and Elias withdrew to a private chamber. "The Federation will never be the same," Miranda observed, reviewing the flood of data still streaming from activated progenitor sites across the galaxy. "The elder race's monopoly on authority is broken." "Not broken," Elena corrected her. "Transformed. We don't want to replace one hierarchy with another." Elias sat quietly, the crystal shard from the temple still pulsing in his hand. "There's something you both should know," he said finally. "When I connected with the interface at the temple, I saw more than just our past. I glimpsed what might be our future." The women turned to him with concern. "The Shapers didn't leave this galaxy by choice," he continued. "They fled from something, a threat so fundamental that it challenged their existence at its core. Part of our inheritance is a warning." "A warning about what?" Elena asked. Elias looked down at the crystal. "The Shapers believed language, true, perfect communication, could evolve beyond mere information exchange to become a force of creation. But they discovered it could also become a force of destruction. Somewhere beyond the galactic rim, they encountered entities that spoke the language of unmaking, beings they called the dissonants." "Are you saying there's some kind of linguistic predator out there?" Miranda asked incredulously. "I'm saying the Shapers gave us their language for a reason beyond philosophical inheritance. They were preparing us, preparing the galaxy, for a conflict they could not win alone." Elias closed his hand around the crystal. "The awakening of their sights isn't just recognition. It's activation of a defensive network they established before departing." Elena sank into a chair, the implications washing over her. "So humanity's emergence on the galactic stage, our savage unpredictability that the elder races disdain so much, might be exactly what the galaxy needs," Elias finished. "Innovation born of necessity. Adaptability forged through struggle. The very traits the Ethel mock as primitive could be our greatest strengths." Miranda's scientific mind was already racing ahead. "We need to accelerate our research, establish training protocols for more linguistic specialists, distribute access to progenitor sites equitably among all Federation species, and prepare for a war unlike any the galaxy has seen," Elias added solemnly. "One fought with words that reshape reality itself." Elena looked through the chamber window at the ongoing council session, where representatives of 200 species were heatedly debating the new galactic order. "They called us savages," she said softly, "until we spoke the language of their gods. Now we must teach them all to speak it before the silence comes." Outside in the council chamber, the holographic display of the galaxy continued to pulse with newly awakened light, while in the far distant reaches, beyond the galactic rim, something ancient stirred in response, a dissonance that had waited patiently for the Shaper's voice to rise again. The true test of humanity's inheritance was just beginning.